This movie finished a few years ago. Why are we just seeing it? Can you tell us about that?
Well, we finished it 3 years ago, and I thought, well, finally, 5 years of work.
Yeah.
Now this movie is about to see the light. But every studio passed Netflix, Amazon, everyone said this is not for us.
Don't know if any one of you have already been to see The Sound of Freedom, but my friends and I just walked out. Hi. And we are curious what your experiences were in the movie theater because we pre-ordered our tickets, paid for them, they were claimed, got the link sent, and this is an AMC theater in Pineville, North Carolina. Some point today, the tickets got refunded to my friend and we couldn't figure out why. So we come anyways to the theater after dinner and they're like, oh, well, we refunded all the tickets because there's no air conditioning in our theaters. Okay, whatever, we don't care. Are you still showing it? Yeah, you can still watch it. There was no one in that theater. There was us four and four other people, 8 people in the theater on a Friday night. There was air conditioning in the lobby. There was air conditioning in the hallways. There was air conditioning in the bathrooms, not the theaters.
Tried going to see Sound of Freedom, and this happened. No one left until they played the movie. They tried to give us free tickets if we left.
There's no one in here. And then it said that they were sold out. This is ridiculous.
Fire alarm goes off and people still watch the movie. They can't stop the truth.
Sound of Freedom is a movie based off of real-life events, and it gives audiences a heartbreaking look into the realities of child trafficking and exploitation. And you would think that a movie like this would universally get praise for spreading awareness about an important issue that we should all want to be stopped. You would think that all of those involved in this film would be praised for standing up for children. The woke left loves to talk about how people of color are marginalized, and the stories told in this movie take place in Mexico, Honduras, Colombia, places with people of color, in particular children, who are being victimized. And you would think that since Hollywood loves to virtue signal, that they would jump at the opportunity to pretend that they actually care about people and make money at the same time. But the contrary has happened. This movie was actually completed in 2018, and at the time 21st Century Fox held the distribution rights. But at that time, they did not release the film. And then in 2019, Disney acquired 21st Century Fox, and then Disney held the rights to this film. And then Disney shelved the film.
That's suspicious.
The filmmakers reportedly spent years trying to get the distribution rights back from Disney, and eventually they did, and now Angel Studios holds the distribution rights, and they have finally got it into theaters. And since it has been in theaters, the left-wing media has been trashing it and ripping it to shreds. They are doing their best to dissuade audiences from seeing this movie. Take, for example, this article that was written in Rolling Stone titled, "Sound of Freedom is a superhero movie for dads with brainworms." And the subheading reads, "The QAnon-tinged thriller about child trafficking is designed to appeal to the conscience of a conspiracy-addled boomer." The entire article is full of personal attacks. The person who wrote this article attacked the audience that was in the theater with them watching this movie, and basically is saying that the audiences who are interested in this movie are right-wing extremists and conspiracy theorists. They attacked the actor who stars in this movie. They attacked the man that this movie is based off of, and they even went to say that child trafficking is being exaggerated to create moral panic. And then there was this conversation that took place on CNN regarding this movie.
And The Sound of Freedom does focus on a real issue of sex trafficking. But that theme, it's sort of like that kernel of truth that feeds the QAnon conspiracy theory. Tell us how those two things work together.
Sure. And the most durable and the most believable conspiracy theories are not entirely false. There's something in them that is true and the rest of it is false. But the believers point to the one true thing and they say, oh, you don't believe that this particular thing is true. In terms of child trafficking, we know trafficking is real. We know it has real victims. No one is denying that. But these films are created out of moral panics. They're created out of bogus statistics. They're created out of fear. And with something like Sound of Freedom, it specifically is looking at QAnon concepts of these child trafficking rings that are run by the high-level elites, and only people like Tim Ballard and only people like Jim Caviezel, and by extension, only people like the ticket buyer can help bring these trafficking rings down. So there's a very participatory element. You're not just going to see a movie, you're just killing 2 hours on a hot day. You are helping bring down these pedophile rings and save children. Now, it's not true, but it's a very comforting and it's a very warm feeling to have.
One thing that I have learned over the last few years is that when there is a coordinated effort in the media to attack the reputation of something or someone by using ad hominem attacks, the media is typically trying to hide something. And in the case of The Sound of Freedom, the question that we are all naturally asking is why? And consider the clips that I showed you at the beginning of this video of moviegoers in America who say that shady tactics were used to prevent them from watching this movie. Very interesting. You know, I actually watched this movie. It was hard to get tickets to see this movie because where I live, and I don't live in a small town, but where I live, there's only one theater that is showing this movie. The next closest theater is a 45-minute drive, but the theater that is showing this film closest to me, they're only showing it on one screen, and the tickets kept selling out. On one hand, it is good that people are interested in seeing this movie. On the other hand, it sucks that my local theater is using the smallest auditorium, so a very small group of people can watch this movie at a time, and they don't have very many showings. They do maybe 3 showings a day, and they do it in the smallest theater. Now, that is not unusual for an indie movie. Typically, indie movies do not get large screens because the theater obviously wants to maximize their profits, and this movie was not expected to perform so well. But since this movie is performing so well, I would expect that in the upcoming weeks, that they put this in either more theaters or in bigger theaters so that the theater can maximize their profits. And if they don't do that, then I will be giving them the side eye. But nonetheless, I have watched this movie. I made sure to watch it specifically because they are trying to prevent people from watching it. And I want to share my thoughts on this movie, why I believe the media is attacking it, and what I think that this movie means for society and Hollywood as a whole. To give a brief summary, Sound of Freedom is based on the true story of Tim Ballard, a former agent with the Department of Homeland Security who left his job with the government because he was frustrated. Frustrated that his job allowed him to investigate and arrest the consumers of child exploitation material, but he was not allowed to rescue the children themselves that were the victims. So in 2013, he and a team of former government operatives left their careers with the U.S. government to start the nonprofit organization Operation Underground Railroad, where they can work in any jurisdiction and in conjunction with law enforcement to rescue children directly. The film centers around this time in Tim Ballard's life. Going into this movie, I was a little bit nervous. The subject matter is very heavy, and the thought of a child being hurt is very devastating to me, let alone seeing it being depicted on a screen. And I will say that I was very impressed with how they handled this tough subject matter. At no point did I feel like the child actors were being exploited or put in compromising positions. And Tim Ballard himself has expressed that he made sure that there were no graphic scenes contained in this movie showing child exploitation. And one thing that really stood out to me was the opening scene in this movie. The movie starts with a young girl singing in her home, and then there is a knock at the door. The young girl rushes to the door and opens it to find a female talent recruiter. The talent recruiter lets the little girl know that she saw her singing in the market and thinks she has potential for stardom. The female recruiter is welcomed into the home, where she persuades the father to bring both the little girl and the little girl's brother to an audition. Once there, the father is told that he is not allowed to watch and is instructed to leave and come back at 7 p.m. Next, we see a room full of children all aspiring to become stars, and they all individually participate in photo shoots where headshots and body shots are taken, similar to what you would see in Hollywood, except the purpose of these photos is to advertise the children to predators. Watching the photo shoot was disturbing to me because it reminded me of shows like Toddlers and Tiaras, where young girls are dressed up to look like adult women. And to be honest, the photo shoot that is depicted in Sound of Freedom is way more tame than half the stuff you see on TikTok that show Toddlers and Tiaras, or even the movie Cuties. And it just made me sick to think that these depictions of children are everywhere for predators to ogle at. And many people have pointed out to the selective outrage between this movie and the movie Cuties. If you have never heard of the movie Cuties, I'm sorry that I'm about to ruin that for you. This movie, trash. I have never watched Cuties in its entirety, and I never will. There is no amount of money that you can pay me to sit through this entire movie. I have seen clips of the movie. There's many YouTubers who have made videos talking about this movie and talking about how inappropriate it is. I've seen the clips. I've seen what people have to say about it. I get the gist. I don't need to watch the movie. So I'm just going to give you the gist, okay? So that you also don't have to watch the movie, but you can understand why people are arguing that it's selective outrage. So Cuties is a movie about an 11-year-old girl, and it's supposed to be a coming-of-age drama where this girl is discovering her femininity, and she goes on to join a twerk dance crew at her school. The dance twerk scenes in this movie are hard to watch if you are raised right. The little girls are wearing short shorts, belly tops, they're twerking like it's a Nicki Minaj music video, and for some reason, the director felt it was necessary and appropriate to zoom into the backsides of little girls in short shorts twerking. This movie, Cuties, was praised for being moving and even received an award at the Sundance Film Festival. But there are people criticizing Sound of Freedom that is spreading awareness about child exploitation. Hollywood's a funny place.
You're the reason this species is a failure, and it makes me angry.
I think there are a number of reasons why the mainstream media is attacking this movie. Firstly, I do think it is political tribalism. Anything associated with conservatism is immediately trashed by liberals. Let's say tomorrow a conservative comes up with the cure for cancer. Liberals will say, don't take it. That person once misgendered someone. They're a bigot. Don't take it. It is crazy to me that people have become so ideological that they will side with child exploitation if the opposite means siding with a conservative. The second reason that I think the mainstream media is trashing this movie is because the people in mainstream media and Hollywood with power are all pedos. There, I said it. Take, for example, CNN. CNN, like I showed you earlier, had a segment where they were trashing this movie. CNN also has a former producer by the name of John Griffin that recently, like when I say recently, a few weeks ago, this happened at the end of June, pled guilty to luring a 9-year-old girl to engage in sexual activity. And then there's, of course, the director Roman Polanski. Roman Polanski in 1977 pled guilty to sexual assault of a 13-year-old girl. Before the judge could hand down the sentence, Roman Polanski fled from America to France so that he would avoid facing 19 years in jail for his crimes. And to this day, Roman Polanski has not served his jail sentence. But you know what he has done? He's continued to be a director, a respected director in Hollywood. He has won about 11 awards from Hollywood since he did what he did to a 13-year-old girl. He continues to work in Hollywood right now to this day. And then, of course, there's Jeffrey E., who we all know had an island where trafficking took place, and he had contact with many Hollywood elites and politicians. There's Bill Gates, Bill Clinton, Donald Trump, Woody Allen, Alan Dershowitz. It's hard to know the nature of the relationships that all of these people had with Jeffrey E., but it says a lot that he managed to have so many famous and wealthy and powerful people in his sphere. And I don't doubt that there are probably other Jeffrey E. type figures that we just don't know about yet.
I suspect foul play.
And before I end this video, I wanted to play a clip of an interview that Tim Ballard did discussing the movie The Sound of Freedom.
I had to study their literature. This was a political platform. This was a political party. And what I started recognizing is I named them I call the Fall Network doctrines. Okay, it's like they include things like separate children from parents because parents are a bad influence. The state knows best. Sexualize kids. Let them see pornography. 2.
Karl Marx.
3. Take God out of education because that just gets in the way. And kids consent. Children can consent to anything. At 12 years old, they should be able to vote. They should be able to do anything. Now, what am I saying here? My stomach is getting sick as I'm reading this. I read this every day. It's the woke left agenda. I'm not saying that they're colluding or talking. It doesn't matter. It's the same dark source. are sitting back right now going, we've been pushing this agenda for decades. And now we don't have to push anymore because the left is taking care of it for us in America. In America. And this whole trans voice on children. You know, again, I'm libertarian. Adults, do what you want. I'll fight for your right to do whatever you want. Okay, in terms of adult. I'm talking about children. Yeah. And what they're saying is children can consent to having their bodies filled with a chemical that will destroy the reproductive system. Yeah. They can consent to ripping apart their genitalia. Like, this is insanity. Why? In and of itself, it's horrible. But what it's going to lead to is what the pedophiles have been asking for. If you can consent to that, guess what? What's more fluid than gender? Age.
I think the success of this movie says a lot about where we are as a society today. This movie has only been in theaters for about 2 weeks as of the making of this video, and it's already made about $49 million on a budget of $14.5 million. I think it says that society cares about these issues, which is very important. I think that it says that society has more free thinkers than we think, which is reassuring. And if you have already seen this movie, I would like to know, what are your thoughts? Please let me know in the comment section down below. If you like this video, please don't forget to hit the like button because it does help me in the algorithm. If you are a new viewer and you like this video and you would like to keep up with my channel, please don't forget to hit the subscribe button. If you are a returning viewer and this is your second, third, or fourth time watching one of my videos and you have not yet subscribed, what are you waiting for? We already go together. Just make it official and hit that subscribe button. And if you'd like to see more content like this, I have 2 more videos for you in the end cards. I will see you guys in the next one. Take care of yourselves. Bye.